Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 11 reaction and review. This is an episode titled Mom City, which is also possibly the penultimate episode of Ted Lasso as a show, just in case you are not feeling emotional enough by everything you just watched. Just remember that for a moment as it just like stabs you in the heart.
And with that big sort of reveal that didn't quite come at the end of this episode from Ted, I mean, it feels like he's about to basically be like, the show's over.
I don't know how else to read it, but I mean,
It's not a love confession. He's not coming there to be like, and by the way, I love you. There's not enough buildup for that.
I I agree, though. I will admit when Rebecca went down there and it was like, this is that time we reveal something. I reveal something to you. I thought for a split second she was gonna say it, just because I didn't know what else she was gonna say.
No, there was a moment there that I was a little bit like, could it be after Beck showed up? And
Yeah.
it was sort of like this reunion of all the people that like Rupert had done dirty, like what we just saw on Succession, where it was like the wife, the ex-wife, the mistress, the ex-mistress all together. Like I thought that maybe it was the thing that was gonna push her to be like, and by the way, have these feelings.
Yeah, and instead, that obviously doesn't happen. And the story we really get, I think, in this episode is pretty restrained on like a relationship standpoint, at least when it comes to romantic relationships. This is really an episode about parents, mothers, sons, fathers, daughters, like no matter what configuration you want to take on it. There is a lot to emotionally unpack. Hopefully, you still have some tissues ready. We are going to get in to all of this. But as we do, be sure to also check out our Patreon. We have a link for that in the description. And over there, you can see some exclusive Ted Lasso discussions, including one all about this Ted, Rebecca, will they or won't they game.
Yeah, we also have one talking about spin-offs, because if this is the final for the whole show, there's got to be a spin-off, right? And so we also have a video over there talking about that potential spin-offs. We have the link for you below for our Patreon, and thank you to everyone who has already joined our Patreon and is supporting the channel.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, so we have to dive right into this last scene,
Yeah.
because I mean there was a lot of build up in this episode with Ted and missing his son, and his mom is out there who's also saying, your son really misses you. Everybody put an F in the comments for Ted and all his F bombs, because I feel like it was something that we needed to see happen. But is he leaving? It feels like that's the obvious, thing that he is bringing to Rebecca, that he's about to tell her he's leaving.
It feels really obvious, and I don't mind. I think everybody from the start of this season, the moment we all kind of thought, all right, this is probably the end of the show, like in its current form. It has to end with Ted going back to America. He's never going to stay away from his son for that long. The big question that I have been struggling with kind of personally on this for really the past couple of months is, okay, I understand fully that Ted needs to go back, but why now? Why has he not come to this epiphany before? And I think in this episode, he finally articulates it where, he's scared. He's scared enough that he's going to get so attached to his son beyond even what he already is, that his son is going to leave him and he's already lost his father, and it's going to be too much for him to bear. Like that element of like male insecurity is not something that's really talked about a lot on TV. And it's really sort of peeling back the layers of this guy who, he's kind of been given like this Mr. Rogers sheen at times on this show. And in this episode, yeah, he's doing the F-bombs. He is really getting emotional. He's talking all about the fear that his son's going to leave. Like this is the real Ted tour de force, but it's also just, it all makes so much more sense now.
Also, just that fear that I think everybody has of losing love, losing someone you love, that they're going to leave you, that you're going to, have these feelings for somebody and then they're just going to be gone, that, you're going to be left heartbroken. It's why so many people never get into relationships or never, decide not to become parents and not have people close to them. And it's a decision that lots of people do make, but I mean, personally for me, it's a decision that I wouldn't be able to make because, I love love. And if I'm going to get my heart broken, the only way to, experience love is to take that risk.
And it's something that Ted's obviously, he's so scared of that I think to an extent,
Yeah.
this is the reason why he acts so kind of just like goofy and friendly and, movie references and all this sort of genial behavior. He is so afraid of either being hurt or making people feel bad that he wants to have these good feelings all around him so he doesn't have to sort of face any sort of sadness or really even dive too deep into anything, because if it's just pleasant and on the surface, then it's easy and he can sort of shove everything else in the back of his head.
Yeah, but it also takes away intimacy,
Yeah.
which is, and I'm not talking just romantic, but intimacy with someone that you love, a friend, a child, a parent, all of that. And it's something that Ted's been missing out on. And he feels like he's at a point now with this visit from his mom and
Yeah.
getting everything off his chest that he's moved into a space that he's ready for that intimacy and that love. And that, if there's ever a situation where his son leaves him, that he will be okay, that he's willing to take that risk.
And it's weird in a way, but I think him and his mom have enough similarities that in kind of confronting his mom, he's almost also confronting himself and also kind of confronting his own issues. Like there's a line from, I had to write this down because I wanted to make sure I got it right. But I love meeting people's moms. They're like an instruction manual as to why they're nuts. Like that is something that Ted says. And Ted's mom is a perfect instruction manual as to why Ted is the way that he is. And because people can't see like themselves clearly, I think one of the reasons Ted gets so irked in this episode, seeing mom tell all these stories and sort of be like this version of himself in front of everybody, it's just like, this is really what I'm like. This is something that I don't necessarily love about myself all the time, but I can't see it. But I can see it with her.
Yeah, you didn't love that he almost became a drummer for Coldplay?
Okay, you know what? Will Champion's drumming is well enough. Thank you very much.
No, I really liked also the talk that May had with him about parents in general, that they, they try to do their best, but they're always going to screw something up. They're only human. They can only do the best that they can, sort of thing. But there's always going to be this type of very difficult relationship, as much as you love them, that is going to be there with them.
It was fascinating sort of seeing Ted's mom in this way in this episode. And I don't mean this as an insult at all to the character or Becky Ann Baker, who plays Ted's mom, who, by the way, Becky Ann Baker has made just a career out of playing people's moms for like the past like 15 years, because I'm pretty sure she was Hannah's mom on Girls in addition to this. But I'm glad that she was not a super regular presence on the show, because it kind of gave us a chance to really get to know Ted before understanding more of who he came from. And it would have been too much of an overstimulation sort of in my mind. And they played it really well, where we'd already seen Michelle too much on the show for her to be an impetus to bring Ted back. We needed somebody else. We needed a different voice, and having it be her, I understand it. Like this is some tough stuff. Like there's not as much rewatchability in this episode, I feel like, as some others, because some of it just like tore me up inside.
No, this episode is a one shot for me. It was so good and it was so well done. And they talked about, listen, we're going to talk about this Jamie arc, because there was some stuff in this Jamie arc that I have never seen on any show before tackle this subject matter. And I was so happy to see it tackled on this show specifically, because this show has covered a lot of mental health issues and some deeper, darker things inside of people, as much as this is a comedy, of course. there's a lot of very real moments on this show, and everything that was going on with Jamie and, going back to Man City and his dad and how things were left with him, and that we've seen him, that he is not a great guy and he's been not that great to Jamie, and that Jamie's driving force is sort of like showing him that, he's great and that he's better than him. And, I think that's a relationship that many people out there have with either one or both parents. I'm not saying everybody, but I think this is a very underspoken about relationship that's out there, where children have no relationship or a bad relationship with one or both parents, and that the child, even as an adult, still carries around this like shame about it, or bad feelings about it, or I'm not good enough, or I just have to always reach higher and higher and higher, and maybe then they'll respect me, or then they'll accept me, or then they'll love me. And like, I've never seen this really tackled in this way on any show ever. And the way that they put this together, oh my God, that speech with his mom where she's just like, you have such a great support system of people who do love you and do believe in you, and you will, you can't change your father. Your father is your father, and he's this jerk, and I'm really sorry that it turned out that that's the person that ended up being your dad, but that's the way that it is, and you can't count on him to change, and you shouldn't count on him to change. That this is something that you can change for yourself, that you don't need him. You have me, you have all of us, you have your team, and you have yourself. And so watching him then go forward, play the game, his dad is not up in the stands, but he wasn't really able to see for sure anyway, but we know he wasn't up in the stands, but that he was able to sort of get past this on his own in a way that I think a lot of people struggle to be able to do that when you have a parent that you just don't have a good relationship with, or they are a jerk, and it's just never gonna go anywhere for you, that you have to pick yourself up with the support system you have. I was just like, this is very bold for the show to be tackling this topic in this way, and I was really happy to see it. I will say, put
Mhm.
on your hard
All right,
hat.
all right.
The one part of it that I was just like, I really wish they hadn't done this, was showing the father away from everyone. It looked like he was at some sort of group or support meeting to try to get better. And I was kind of like, they didn't need to show me this. It would have been fine for me if he was just a jerk, or even if he was trying to get well or whatever it was, but I didn't need it to be tied up in a bow to have like, oh, there's hope that it could work out. I was just like, man, they are really hitting something where most times it doesn't work out. And that's okay, that Jamie got there on his own with the support of the people he had around him. It was okay.
And
What a great story,
like
man.
that part of this is great. Like I agree with you. I didn't need to see Jamie's father. I don't really, honestly, I don't really care what happens with him. And I think the important thing for Jamie is he shouldn't care what happens with him. It's hard because, it is your father, but
Yes.
you don't get to choose your parents in life. And I think
No.
that's something that it's definitely a message that doesn't get carried across. And parents are people too.
Absolutely.
Not all of them are going to be good. Some of them are going to be great. And I think
Yep.
the thing that makes this Jamie story so effective is just that he gets so transfixed psychologically about his dad that, we meet his mom, and his mom loves
It's
him.
wonderful.
I know.
Oh
She's
my
like watching
goodness.
the game in a Jamie jersey and cheering him on. And it's just like, you're so stuck on your dad. We never really got to see this, and there's such a fun gamut of emotions. Like, I know Jamie was messed up in his head, but I gotta say, early on in this episode, two of my favorite things were, one, him taking a picture of other people, and nobody's like, that's not even taking a picture with him.
And getting a high five in the head.
Like, it's just
Jamie.
so funny. And like this, and a lot of people on Ted Lasso, I think, get a lot of attention for everything that they do, and understandably so. But Phil Dumpster, who plays Jamie, what a season for him where he's gotten to be such beyond like sort of the prick, the pretty boy,
Wonderful.
like all these other sort of things that he's been in the past. And I even love just going to Jamie's bedroom where he's got a Roy Kent poster and a Keeley poster, and he's just like hanging out with them. How awkward is that gonna be, by the way, for Roy and Keeley at the end?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. No, I thought it was so well done. It was so funny. I mean, Jamie was the star of this particular episode for me, but man, Van Dam was the star of that game. Like, I know everyone was giving Jamie his flowers, but no, that game was all Van Dam in his mask.
The best part of that was the commentary, and Van Dam saves another in his hideous mask.
I know, but then I love Jamie, who's just like, it's important to be safe. It doesn't matter what you look like.
Okay, see, Van Dam, as somebody who I tried to play basketball a little bit, I'm not that good. I can only block shots and shoot threes or whatever, but because of my vision, I have two options. One, I can wear these glasses, nobody breaks them, or two, I have to wear goggles, and you always stand out like a sore thumb if you're wearing something different out there. I have seen basketball players, by the way, Van Dam, wear that mask, and they do so pretty effectively. Now, I know that your name before Van Dam was Zorro. You kind of looked a little bit like Zorro with that
All
mask on.
right.
You could have embraced that, but no, you're Van Dam. Good on you. Everything I think with Ted, with Jamie in this episode, it's really just powerful and interesting and layered stuff. And there's a lot to talk about with Nate, and we'll get
Yeah.
into Nate, but I want to give a moment here to Coach Beard because this scene with him at Nate's place at the end of the episode was really, really fascinating because at first there was a part of me that's like, okay, is Beard just sort of making this up? Is he pulling it? It's like, no, I think he's being 100% genuine, and he's such an offbeat character. We don't really understand that much of him, and I think Brendan Hunt kind of plays him intentionally that way, but those confessions were really dark and really heavy, and it strangely makes sense. And it's sort of like I understand Beard as a character a lot more than I ever really did, and I'm still kind of working through my feelings on it.
Yeah, Beard has had two really good speeches this season. One was to Henry, sort of explaining Hey Jude and everything there. Coach Beard is best when he's serious and he's not sort of serious about nonsense like his girlfriend
Yeah,
or, you know, Piggy's Stardust or whatever, right? When he's
yeah.
really serious. And that conversation with Nate, we saw the guys go to his work to be like, hey, the whole team wants you back. Oh, did Ted say so? No, we wanted to check with you first. And Nate's like, no. And then, Jade gets him fired. Oh, she's so cute. But having Coach actually come over there, Coach Beard, and just give him that story of sort of like, yeah, I was in, this bad place, jail, this happened, I didn't know who to call. I called Ted, I robbed his car. Ted gave me even a second chance after that to be like, hey, you know, uh, it was mine, I gave it to him just to lend it. He didn't rob it. It's okay. And then offered me a job sort of thing. It basically changed his life. For him to then come and pay it forward and be like, basically, you screwed him over
Mhm.
and then, you did this and you did that. And now I'm here to offer you a job. Oh, and then he put his head against his head. I just died. Oh, my
Beard.
heart. Like, I couldn't take this episode. It
I
was so
know.
good.
It was so good. It was sad. It made me feel things I was not expecting. And I know I'm supposed to feel things when watching Ted Lasso. I think it's just one other detail that I really, really like about it is the sort of learning that, okay, Ted and Coach Beard are like a kicker and a punter. And I'm not a football expert, either American or the football as referred to outside of America, but I know kickers and punters, they kind of get the short end of the stick in football. They're kind of viewed like, oh, how much of a real football player are you guys? You're not out there tackling or doing but it just further cemented, like, even in the sport that like these two are supposedly good at and knowledgeable at, they were still kind of the underdogs, the people who weren't really taken seriously. And I think that's really kind of what this episode did so well is all these little attention to detail moments like
Mhm.
that, like having Keely again on the TV at the hotel, this time in Manchester,
So
recommending
funny.
things in the city, and they've just really sort of built all that stuff off, and they're paying it off now.
Yeah, they really are. Okay, and we have a little bit of movement with Keely and Roy. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw them have like a hookup in the last episode, but then it seemed like they were like, they're gonna be just friends now. And we finally saw Roy say, no, I don't want to be just friends. I want to be more than friends. And, she got cut off before she could say anything where she was like, look, Roy. And it sounds like she was about to let him down. But I mean, I just don't think that that's where it's going to go. If we're going to have like this all tied up in a red bow with Jamie's dad getting help, then they're not going to leave Roy and Keely apart and we're just buddies.
Yeah, I can't see it. I mean,
I'd be shocked.
if you guys spend like half of the finale with kind of building towards them getting together full time, like maybe I could see that if Keely is just sort of like, you know what, Roy, I've been in a lot of relationships lately. I need a little bit of time for myself. I could understand that, but at the same time, like they are made for each other. They clearly are in love with each other. It just doesn't feel like that's going to end in any other way.
I will hate it if they are not together. I will be putting the F's in the comments.
Yeah, I don't know who's gonna be happy with that. I don't think anybody is gonna be happy with that. And what's interesting about this, and we'll have a preview up and we'll talk more
Yep.
about this stuff in the preview, is just that, there are a lot of stories that are pretty much tied together at this point. Like, I think there's probably more that could be said about, Sam and the restaurant. There's certainly more to be said with Rebecca and how Ted says goodbye and like all these little things. But a few episodes ago, I was really kind of wondering, how are you guys going to do this? It feels like there's too much in the air, but now it's just sort of like, okay, it does all make sense. The pieces are coming into place, and I can kind of see the path towards the finish line.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it in the preview of what we feel is going to be coming up. I mean, as you guys know, there's no promos for the show, but we will have a preview. We'll talk about the synopsis. We'll talk about all the different things that, how we think it's all going to get wrapped up with what they've led us to.
All right. Well, of course, check out our Patreon. We have a link in the description below for
Mhm.
that. And thank you to everybody who has joined so far.
Yep.
And we will see you here next time.